Okay, so let's give it a try to write the homepage test. We already have the authentication server test to inspire from. Okay, let's do a new PHP file, call it homepage test. Let's declare strict types equals to 1 and use the PHP unit test case. So we need to extend from this one. Our class homepage test will extend from the test case, and we'll have a public function called test listing, test product listing that needs to get executed. Okay, let's go and already check if we can run this. Good, the test is not performing any asserts, so it was skipped. We need to depend on the login, so because everything is very coupled, we might have sessions everywhere around the code. I'll further do an inspection on that. So we first require to include the server for the authentication, and I'll start with doing a login. So first require the server and reuse this login from. So at some point I'll probably extract the data in different files and make it a little more practical, but for now let's assert that we can log in. And we should have an object in the session now. So var dump and run the test again. Okay, so we have some object in the session. Next, let's include the actual class that we want to test. Include once from the home page, the server definition of the function, and we want to test the equals lista. Okay, this is the method we want to test. Now I'll have to do the same things that I did for the server. Let me first run it. Because all the files are referenced by this doc root class, that's a little inconvenient. So I figured out that I can replace it with a more, so all the files were relative, and now I can reference them to the specific directory. Replace with constant. I won't change this for the moment. So everywhere where I include, I'll do an absolute path rather than the relative paths. And the server is fine. This is including the local config, so this is fine. And on the index, the JavaScript path remains the same. The templates, we can also include this one with relative paths. And on the common, I already made some inclusions. Okay, and also on the server. So let's see if now we still get the errors of not being able to include the files. So the constant is already defined on wait a second. So this is including the common file. Then the common file is including the local config file that only defines the doc root and includes the parent config file. This one. I know what's happening. Okay, that's very nasty. So because I'm including both the server and the home page server, Uh, they both define the doc root variable and is becoming very nasty. So I have to remove it altogether. Let's see if I use it anymore. I think this config file should die at some point. So if I'm only including the parent config file for both of them, and for this one, I'll do the same. So I'm totally ignoring the config files, maybe also renaming them. And then the class, okay, that solved the duplicate doc name. For this one, I can also remove the doc root and make it relative to the home page. And now I only have the problem of including the plugin manager 2 times. So this gets included. Okay, this gets included in the parent library every time you create an object of type X Ajax. Oh, that's nasty. If we go in the, let's only require once. Yep, nobody said it will be easy. Callable Ajax in 920. Dependencies. This could turn into a big blocker because the app will be very hard to test if I don't sort out this kind of dependencies. Once. Let's see where it's halting. I will do a breakpoint here. So it's setting up the Ajax object, then is loading the plugin. Nothing to do here, nothing to do here. Then the argument manager, and nothing to do here. Then the response manager, nothing to do here. Okay, now it's creating an object for the plugin manager. And this is a singleton, and then it loads plugins. Okay, we instantiated the Ajax XAjax object. We registered the global function, and then we registered the login function. Process the request. Then we go for the server, and this is when the second instantiation happens. So we include the common, and with this one, this is where it should presumably this pass, this pass, this pass, this also passed. And when loading plugin, the callable object was already in use. So we have to see what happens in the load plugins. Okay. Let's also force a require once. Okay, now we have an undefined constant of doc root on the server at line 25. 35 at line . This needs to redirect to yay, undefined key denumere. This means that we're already calling this method. So I have to pass in the parameters. And I'm already seeing a problem actually. We might just test if it's set. And if it has a value, okay, let me get rid of this breakpoint. Undefined array key page size, and okay, so let's pass an empty array for the filters, and then we will pass an array for the paginator. Page size will be 30, and the next parameter, so the pager needs a page size the current page, we will load the first page. I am asserting that XAjax response is what I get from the object response. Okay, now we have the page size and the current page and an empty form to filter. Yay, and now the test passes. Let's also look a bit on this object response. Okay, it seems that it has all the content. Maybe at a later stage I can do even more assertions on it. But we did test the product listing with no filters. I'm curious about all the changes. Get diff. So we had to modify quite some files, including the ones deep inside the third-party libraries. I'm very curious if this would still work. Undefined constant doc root in the helpers functions. Oh my god. This goes down to app include helpers. It's hard to get rid of that doc root. This will be the pain throughout the entire projects. Okay, this loads the JavaScript files and the CSS files, so maybe here I can actually replace it with some base URL, and this needs to be defined as a global. Base URL equals localhost 193. I forgot to put a semicolon. And I also have one undefined doc root in index on line 44. No, 969. Okay, I think that goes on the home page actually. And This should be also relative to the current directory. And there's another one at line 132. Now we get some I don't think it's including the right. So the pager includes from app templates pager. Okay, let's add another breakpoint. The path seems fine. Pager, and on the pager, oh, I still have more doc. So this needs to get replaced with the base URL. Okay, this will hunt me. They're fixed. Okay, I'll take a little break from changing the doc root. So I also have in the menu helpers in the menu. This needs to get replaced with the base URL as well. Okay, that seems a little better. But I'm miles away of getting rid of that document root legacy variable. And I actually introduced a new problem with the base URL. I'll have to think a bit about this.